Good afternoon, 6th graders. I'm going to go through a couple of your math mystery problems just in case you have any questions on any of them. So for clue number 1, we're dividing fractions by fractions. Again, there are two different ways that you can go about doing this. I'm going to show you both. So I'm going to do the first two examples. I'll do O and R. So in the first example here, what we could do is when we're dividing fractions, we can look at our denominators and we can try and get them to be equal so we can have common denominators. Now in order to do that in this problem, this one isn't too difficult, I'm going to try and make this 3 look like a 9. So in order to do that, I'm going to multiply this entire second fraction here, this one, by 3 over 3. Okay, and again, the reason why I'm going to do that is because I want to get a common denominator of 9. So I know that 3 times 3 is 9. So my new problem then looks like 2 ninths divided by 3 ninths. And remember when we were talking about dividing fractions, when your denominators are the same, they cancel out, they become nothing. And so this problem then becomes 2 divided by 3. Well, 2 divided by 3, I know, is the same as the fraction 2/3. So 2/3 is going to be my answer there. It looks like there's one right there. So 2/3 is in fact an answer for this math mystery, and it's the answer to letter O. Number 2, we're going to take 1/5 divided by 2 ninths. So this one I'm not going to find common denominators only because I would have to change both fractions to come up with a common denominator of 45, and I think that's going to be too much math. I'm going to take the easier way out and be math savvy, and instead I am not going to divide, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. And again, when we do this, we always start by changing our divisor, which is our second fraction. So 1/5 is going to remain the same. I am in fact going to multiply instead of divide, and the reciprocal of 2 ninths is 9/2. So after I multiply this across, I'm going to get an answer of 9/10, or 9 over 10. And that is my answer for R. And it looks like there's one right here and one right here. So that looks like to be a solid answer as well. So again, two different ways you could find common denominators and divide across with your numerators, or you can multiply by the reciprocal. There's clue number 1 for you. Clue number 2, sale prices. Okay, so I'm assuming that there are going to be a lot of questions on this one, so please watch carefully. We are still going to use equivalent fractions to help us solve these types of problems here. So I'm not going to do the blender because you guys should probably know that 50% is the same as half. So if you find half of 110, I believe your answer is 55. So that one you can probably do mentally in your head. For the second one, okay, we are going to, actually, because all of these look like decimals, here's what we're going to do. We are going to use, and you can use a calculator on this if you wish, but we are going to instead turn these percents into decimals, and then we are going to multiply, okay? So the first thing I need to understand here is that I need to find what is 10% of 24, okay? So in order to do that, I'm going to turn 10% into a decimal. So 10% into a decimal is 0.1, because it's, remember, a percent is out of 100, or 0.10, does not matter. And then I'm going to multiply that by my original price, which is 24. So when I do this, and again, you could do this on a calculator, but when I take 1/10 or 10/100ths and I multiply it by 24, I'm going to get 2.4, okay? Now, that is not my sale price. That is going to be my discounted price, okay? So then what I have to do is I have to take $24 and subtract $2.40 and get a sale price of $21.60. Okay, so that would be your answer for the hat, $21.60. So I'm going to erase all of this and put $21.60 here for the hat. Okay, same strategy we're going to use for the luggage bag. So with the luggage bag, again, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert 20% into a decimal. I know that 20% as a decimal is either 0.2 or 0.20, whichever one you want to use. And then I'm going to multiply that by 143. Okay, so again, on a calculator, you push 143 multiplied by 0.2. So I'm going to get my calculator out and do that. Should be able to do it in my head. I think it's 28.6, but I'll show you anyway. So let's get rid of this. Clear. So 143 multiplied by 0.2, like I said, is 28.6 or $28.60. And then what you have to do is that again is your discount. That's not your sale price. So this is the amount that you saved. So I'm going to take 143 and minus 28.6. And I'm going to get $114.40. That is my sale price, $114.40. So this answer here would be $114.40. And that does look like an answer. It looks like it's right there. So therefore, I know that this one is good too. So again, for all of these, turn your percent into a decimal. Multiply, and then subtract from your original price. Okay? Have fun. Adding and subtracting like terms. So we also have not talked about this, but this one is pretty self-explanatory. It should be pretty easy for you. So if you take a look at all of these problems, they are all going to have the same variable, which means the same letter. And so what that means is you can replace literally the letter with anything that you would like. Think of apples, think of cars, think of dirt bikes, whatever, and then read the problem. So for example, let's just take a look at the one that they have finished for us. Okay, so we have 5h minus 2h. Well, it's the same thing as thinking or saying 5 apples minus 2 apples. Well, how many apples do I have? I have 3 apples or 3 h's. Same thing over here with letter A. Okay, if I have 5, and you think of radios or R as radios, 5 radios plus 2 radios gives me 7 radios, minus a radio equals, I have 6 radios, or 6R. Okay? Letter R, now going over here, if I have 3 x's plus 6 x's, well, I know that means I have 9 x's, or 9 x-rays, or whatever you want to say, xylophones, whatever. And then if you add 2 more x's, I'm going to have 11 x's, or 11 x-rays, whatever. So my answer here would be 11 x's. So this is as simple as adding and subtracting. You just have to be sure when it says adding and subtracting like terms that you can only add when your variables or your letters are the same. So for example, if I jump down here to letter M, okay, this looks like the only problem where your variables are not the same. But if I jump down here, I have an x squared in R's, okay? Well, I can't, if I have xylophones, I can't add or subtract radios anymore. Okay, those aren't the same thing. But here I have 4 radios minus 4 radios. So I know that these are going to be 0 radios. These cancel out. Okay, again, if I have, or 4 rabbits minus 4 rabbits, it means I don't have any rabbits. I'm out of rabbits. So this answer here is simply going to be 10x squared. It's what's left over after I add and subtract my radios or rabbits or rings or whatever you want to call them. Okay, so that is clue number 3, and again, that's new, so hopefully you take your time and understand that one. This one, clue number 4, subtracting integers. Okay, so here is my advice for you on this one. What I would do on the bottom of my paper is I would draw a number line like this. Okay, and I would remind myself that if I have a subtraction sign, I'm moving left, and if I have an addition sign, I'm moving right on my number line. Okay? Also, remember that a subtraction sign or a minus sign, it means the opposite. And whenever you have 2 of them next to each other, remember we cross them out and we put an addition sign. So, I'm going to shine some light on what I just said with a few of the examples. So here we go. Letter D. It says -2 minus 5. okay, well, if this is 0 on my number line, and I start with my first number at, like, -2, and then I subtract 5, okay? Again, subtraction, like it says on my number line right here, I should probably use a highlighter instead of arrows all the time. Right here, it tells me I'm moving left. So this means I'm starting at -2 and I'm moving left 5. So I'm going this way 5 units. So if I'm at -2 and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to in fact be at -7 is going to be my answer there. Okay, so again, the subtraction sign tells me that I'm moving left. But when I have 2 of them stuck together right there, okay, those would be 2 subtraction signs. Remember, this just means the opposite of the opposite, okay? So when I have 2 of them right next to each other, it says the opposite of 3. Well, we know that the opposite of 3 is just +3 or +3. So literally this problem means -6 plus 3. And so again, if I'm on my number line, so if I got rid of this problem that I just did, so if I'm on my number line down here and I start at my first number, which is -6, so -6 is over here, and then I add 3. Adding means moving to the right, so I'm going to start at -6 and move 3 places right. 1, 2, 3. Okay? That means I am still negative, and I'm at -3. Okay? I'll do one more with you, and then hopefully this starts to make sense, or between you and your partner, you can figure this out. But here we go. Letter A, I have an opposite of 4. Again, I have 2 negatives next to each other, and again, when we do, we cross them out and we put a plus sign. So now this problem turns into 7 plus 4, which is 11. All right. So there, the first 3 are done for you. Again, if this is confusing or if you get stuck, I will be back in school the next day that we have school. So don't freak out, don't fret. You can come ask me questions, or you can rewatch this video, whatever you would like to do. The next day we have school. All right, and the last one, division with decimal quotients. Remember that when we are dividing with decimals, we want to get the decimal out of the divisor, okay? So it looks like on all of these, all of our divisors, so again, these are my divisors, the number that we're dividing by, all of my divisors look to be in the tens place. Yep. So that means that in order to get rid of my decimals, all I have to do is move my decimal, blink, 1 spot. And then my 2.5 now looks like 25. But the rule here is that if you move your decimal 1 spot on the outside of the house or 1 spot in your divisor, you need to move your decimal 1 spot in your dividend or on the inside of your house. They need to be equal. So if my decimal was right after this number of 7,722 and I move it 1 spot to the right, what it does is it adds 0. So now my new problem looks like 77,220 divided by 25. And then hopefully you will be able to solve the problem from there. It looks like a lot of the decimals are going, or a lot of the answers are going to be decimals. So don't be surprised if you move this decimal 1 spot and then have to put it up on your house up here and continue to add zeros until your answer makes sense. So just to go through this one with you to make sure that we're on the same page here, I'm just going to do one of these. First thing I'm going to do is find out how many 25s go into 77, and that answer would be 3, because 3 times 25 is 75. So then I'm going to subtract 75. I'm left with 2. Bring down 2. How many 25s go into 22? That would be 0. Subtract 0. Bring down my next digit, which is 2. And then my next value, I believe, would be 8, because 25 times 8 is 200, or if you think of it like quarters, if I have 8 quarters, I have $2. And then I'm going to subtract 200, I'll be left with 22. Bring down my last digit, which is a 0. And then ask myself how many 25s go into 220. Again, my answer would be 8. and then subtract 200 one more time, and then I'd be left with 20, and again, I run out of numbers. But because we are working with decimals, I can add a 0 after my decimal, and my number does not change. And I can bring down this 0, and now I have 200 instead of 20. So now I can ask myself how many 25s going to 200. Again, that answer that we did 3 times now is 8, so my final answer would be 3,088 and 8/10, or 0.8. Let's just check up here to make sure that that is in fact an answer, that I did it correctly. And it looks like it's right here. And I believe this is letter U. So there you go. I did the first one for you. So this week's math mystery is going to take quite a long time to do. Remember, I don't want to hear about any cheating. Don't ask Siri for your answers. Don't use a calculator unless it's clue number 2 where you're working with percents and I told you you could. Please, I want to see work. This is practice, practice, practice. It is expected that you are doing the math, not an iPad, not your friend. Okay, this is just a fun way to do math practice. And there's no math review for the short week that we have here, so you have plenty of time to work on it. This isn't going to be due for a few more days, so be sure you ask questions, work hard, and get this done. All right, have a good rest of your day.